Well, hello there, YouTube, and welcome to another Quinnspiracy tonight, today, wherever you are, wherever the time is, whatever the day is. Um, I'm with my normal co-host, Mr. Ogre.
Howdy doody.
I am with our resident nutjob, Mr. Mose.
Hello.
He was going to say hello,
Hello.
but
Nut job appropriate.
Well, I thought you'd enjoy the term as an endearment rather than as a cuss. Also have Mr. Lord Quinn with us as well.
Hello, everybody.
And obviously we have the great Mr. Fortune Teller himself, Mr. Crumplepoint.
Good evening.
Well, now that we've all got that out of the way, we're actually obviously doing a Quinnspiracy tonight. So we're going to be talking about different conspiracy theories and things like that. Unfortunately, we're not going to be talking about anything to do with Tommy Robinson just yet. It might slip in towards the end, I don't know. But we do have an actual point of sticking to our little conspiracy theories that we've decided that we're going to have. And the first one is going to be about gun control and why the left are so determined, and left-wing government are so determined to actually take away the guns from the people, and why that could possibly happen. So if anybody wants to take the floor on that one, I'd be more than gracious to step aside.
Well, I heard personally that the Chinese have made some secret deals with America in exchange for clean coal, and the Chinese want to come and collect their clean coal, but they're a bit worried about how the Americans are going to react.
That's very interesting. I mean, are you suggesting that they're coming across to actually collect it themselves by force, or are you suggesting that just coming to collect it in general?
Or maybe they just want it paid to them, and the American government know that once they start giving it to the people, may not be too happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm still trying to find out. Do you mean it's just a normal as a trade deal, or do you mean that they're coming across to nick it?
I haven't really looked into it, but I heard that because of bailouts, it's to do with money. America has indebted themselves to China money-wise, and the idea was that the return was going to be. So America owes China money, in debts, and China wants their coal, but the American people won't stand for that kind of behaviour.
Possible. I mean, me myself, I would possibly go for the actual line of thinking that a government can't control a populace that is armed. I'd probably go with something along that lines myself. What does everybody else think?
I'm going to be boring and agree with Common Sense Guy in the British perspective, because the way it started here was when Lord Wellington was Prime Minister. There was a massive riot in Liverpool, and it was a workers' riot, and they sent in the cavalry, and that formed such a huge massacre that they had to make the police out of that. And the police were unarmed, and the public were armed, and this was so that the community was policed by consent, and that the community had to actively help the police, because the community can't arrest people. That was given to the police, that power. However, in return, the police were giving up their lethal force. And that made it a very balanced system. And that continued until almost the turn of the century, I think, before they had any kind of firearms laws. It was taboo to carry a firearm in public, but you could do it. And I think that, an armed society is much more polite, as they say, and they want that to change so that they can have the police armed, the populace unarmed, and they can get us to do whatever the hell they like.
I think something very, very similar to that. I think that having a populace that doesn't have any sort of armament, even if it's to do with knives and things like that, obviously the government on our turf is trying to ban them. But going back to using children and things like that as a means of actually getting people's attention and grabbing it, and the mass shootings themselves and things like that, do we feel that it's a case of the media overhyping what's happened, or do we think that it's a theory in itself that's what's happened? Or I'm just trying to gauge what people's ideas are.
I think it's controlled. I think it's deliberate.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And before the China thing, it was always to me the New World Order. When they implement their new regime, they don't want people to be able to fight back in any way.
I mean, do we think the regime in itself is a possibility of the deep state government trying to push through its ideology and its what do you call it, manifesto in itself, so to speak, by taking away the guns and enforcing it upon itself? For instance, like the introduction of FEMA camps, which have been introduced as the ideas of like hurricane survival points and things like that, but yet have been overstored in massive amounts of different counties or states, and there's enough for the whole populace.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think there's something coming. And being the resident expert nut job, I start from the extreme ends that maybe the governments know something we don't know. Maybe the governments know that with the current population of the planet and the resources, it's unsustainable. And you could ask, are they planning a coup?
Yeah, they could be. They could be planning something like a coup, something like that. Yeah.
Well, that feeds into the whole RX-84 thing, doesn't it? Of the
I've not heard of that.
Oh, well, it's Ogre. Have you heard of that? You must have heard of that.
Actually, RX-84, you got me, brother.
It's a list. It's a conspiracy theory, you know, in the most fun sense of it's a list of persons. It's kind of like your no-fly list in America who are deemed to be trouble.
Star Chamber.
In the event of a natural disaster, they are to be rounded up and put into these FEMA camps. So that
does that have to do with like the color stamps on the mailboxes where they put like a
red and green?
Okay, because I might not connect but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, their list.
They already have a list, and I've worked hard. You know, I don't want to call out 4chan, but I challenge anybody. I've blatantly put my face up here. I've carefully edited and showed you part of my property. Find me. You know, I mean, all I'll say is because of what we're talking about, because of the right to bear arms, in the beginning of my channel a year and a half ago, I've showed some weapons. I'm not going to show any weapons now, but let it be known, there is a firearm within reach of me right now. I always keep this here, which is just a staff that a man made me that's made out of ironwood that I rescued from a tire explosion in a shop that I lived next to a long time ago. So anyway, gun control. Listen, we can talk about the New World Order. We can talk about all kinds of things, but let me tell you English people something that you may not know. Our Constitution does not protect you, but it includes you. It includes you. You were born with the right to protect yourself and your country. It has come and gone. It has been the nobleman can carry a pistol, but the vagabond may not, because he may be a highwayman. And the argument, the debate has raged on. The fact of the matter is, the latest document that corroborates what I'm saying right now is the United States Constitution. And it tells you, it is calling to you now, the dead souls of our forefathers, fallen in battle and died of old age alike, are saying, you, British man, have the right to protect yourself. You were born with these inalienable rights and others we cannot think of. They were very clear to say that these are the ones that we can think of now, but there may be many more. It should never be amended to this thing that there is one less freedom, only more. And God save me if I can't stand before you right now and say the most important thing that can ever be is your freedom of expression. And if I in any way ever abridge that, God slay me. And the second most important thing is your ability to back that up. God save the Second Amendment, and it is for you British as well as us Americans.
Hoorah.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and I hope that we do have some sort of form of extension, because At this moment in time, we need to be able to defend ourselves from our tyrannical governments. And even as said that we weren't going to talk about Tommy, it turns out that I am going to end up talking about fucking Tommy, as it's a case of it's all fresh in everybody's mind.
Yes.
Well,
Lies and deception.
well, everybody doesn't like Tommy or doesn't know what Tommy is or what he does or whatever. That's irrelevant. It doesn't even matter if you believe the narrative that he was of contempt of court, which is now coming out as now the media ban's been lifted. It's the fact that when he was arrested, he was not arrested for contempt of court. He was arrested for breaching the peace and incitement, which is not contempt of court. So the actual charges seem to have changed. But the most scary part is not him being arrested. People are arrested every fucking day. And people are arrested for false accusations every day. That's not the scary part. The scary part is the fact that within 5 hours, without him even being present in a courtroom to even confirm or deny who he even was, he was sent to prison. That's the scary thing. And without the facts of being able to defend ourselves properly, it's a case of, how can we actually defend ourselves when we're not even allowed to look after ourselves in the first place? And our government is the one that's telling us that, we should actually let them look after us. It didn't work so well for the Parkland shootings when you had 4 police officers standing around watching 17 young kids die.
It's a direct attack on an individual to stop him telling the truth. And it's not about Tommy, it's about what Tommy says. And that's why it's so relevant and important. It's a direct attack on freedom of speech. It's the government's telling the peasants.
Look at the bastards taking the man's phone. Look at him.
Yep.
Look at the worms. Look at the same reproachful, unconscionable fiends that stood by and watched him fight against 5 muzzies. I mean, my God, men, what would we do? What would we allow? What would we stand by and watch?
I hate the look he has on his face when he looks at the camera, where you could just tell he knows exactly what's going to happen.
Yep.
Like it's that look that it just cut there. It's when they take his phone, he's like, oh shit,
I'm fucked.
He knows what state these prisons are in.
I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry. He didn't say I'm fucked. He said I'm fooked. And notice Crumple Point as you continue the headline here: inside jail housing, Tommy Robinson, as supporters fear there's a price on his head. And as it turns out, the reason I'm bringing this up is because Common Sense did. And man, please keep your place in your head. I'm sure you will, Crumple Point. You're a very intelligent man. I didn't cut you off. This is Hall, as you feared it would be. Common Sense. They sent him to Hall prison.
Yeah.
Yeah, and these prisons are in such a bad state that, and I don't want to ascribe motives without 100% evidence, but even the insane Charles Bronson, Britain's most violent prisoner, converted to Islam inside, because I am assuming it was one of these things of when he got ghosted to a particular prison, you convert or else. But before everybody gets back on the Tommy thing, I find that we constantly, as the people who are against the status quo, get tricked into defending our position as if it's automatically wrong. And what irritates me about that is our argument's the rational one. It's theirs that's the emotional one, because you ask them, a liberal person, do I own myself? Yes, they say. Well, then do I not have the right to protect what I own, which includes my body? And they say, well, yes, but that's what the police are for. And then you say, yes, but we can see that the police either can't or won't, in some cases, defend me. So then how does that work? And then they just give up and they'll come away with something else. You never get past that point with them. Never.
Well, not to go on to the Tommy part, but it's absolutely amazing on that point, because it really does go with what's going on with Tommy. You have a lot of people at this moment in time going, oh, why would there be a price on Tommy's head? Why would there be this? Why would there be that? It's like, if you watch my video, sorry, I'm being a shell at the minute, but if you watch my video, I tell you the reasons why, and I'll tell you the reasons why again. Is because he was going to expose all the local councils, he was going to expose all the local police, and even the fact probably most of the national police force, all of the social services that are in every single areas, and in some cases even some of the charities that were involved. And all of these people were involved, knew about it, or intentionally covered up what was going on. And yet nobody wants to talk about that. And I'm not necessarily saying that they were involved in the paedophile ring themselves. I'm saying they decided, and is proven, that even if you look at Rotherham, for instance, it was proven that they actually covered everything up. Because their excuse was, we didn't want to be racist. Well, if you're not going to be racist, you don't cover things up. You just don't act on it. So why did you cover it up? It's just so much hiding, so much. It just seems like the old government in the 80s when the paedophile rings were about, when thousands of documents went missing. It just seems very, very similar to everything that's happening on there, where people magically got taken to prison and arrested and were silenced. And the easiest way to silence somebody is to put them behind bars.
I think it saddens me that at this time, I still speak to people who can't, when you show them a picture, can't even recognise Justin Trudeau or Vladimir Putin. And I've met people like that, and I think, well, how are you ever going to know that the government's doing this? Is that how far the mind control goes? Is that how far deep in they've got us?
Well, it goes deeper. I was speaking to somebody on my actual video, and I was showing him the evidence, and I was showing, if you look at all of the big ones like the Rochdale, Rotherham, Newcastle, and Telford, every single one of them says that the police, at least up to police level, have completely and utterly been corrupted and been hiding certain evidence. Yes, and have been failing to actually produce people. For instance, they've actually come across and actually said to victims that some of the victims have brought this on themselves, that they've actually brought the people onto themselves, to the point where one police officer said to one lass that you're not the first person that he's raped, and you won't be the last.
Oh, fuck me. That's now, if there's not a better reason for the fucking Second Amendment in your country, I don't know what is.
Exactly. Right. Exactly that point. And that was from the Rotherham thing. And I was showing this person those cases, and he was actually saying, well, no, I need more evidence. I need more evidence of this to see that this is a cover-up.
Well, that
you come to rape my daughters, I put holes in you. That's the answer.
That was a thing, though, Ogre. You sent me a really interesting video, and it was interesting, of this guy talking. He was talking about Tommy Robinson laughing off the Zionism thing, and the man was very annoyed by this, and said,
"Oh, the high impact vlogs." I usually love that guy, but man, I didn't. Man, no, that's why I sent that out.
I felt he'd been asked to speak about that, and felt obligated to. I don't think that it was a case of he felt passionate about that subject. And Tommy Robinson's focus has always been very community oriented and laser focused on victims' rights. And so he would have no interest in what on earth Zionism is.
And so Brian on High Impact's vlogs is trying to point to he changed his name and this and that. Yeah, he should be lockstep with him. Being an anti-statist, being someone that believes in your personal identity and your national identity, Brian should have stood lockstep with him. But no, man, that was disgusting to me.
Well, there's your litmus test, right? See if somebody makes fun of or does not understand that Tommy Robinson's changed his name, then you know they know nothing about him, because they would know that he has had to change his name multiple times because of things like fatwas or whatever they're called. You know, where the imam says you've got to go kill this guy.
Yes,
and that's why he changes his name. It's nothing to do with thuggery or yob culture. It's always to do with that. Andrew Neil made the same mistake on BBC.
Yes, he did. As well as the mortgage fraud. Sorry, I just wanted to clear this bit up.
And yeah, he wasn't done for the mortgage fraud. He was done for not bringing it to the police's attention.
Yes. And the reason why he committed fraud, so to speak, which technically wasn't because he never went to prison for it, but the reason why he did do that was because he wanted to give his little brother, $5,000 to help him because he was in a dire situation. So yeah, great bit of fraud there.
Yeah, so that guy going, Tommy or whatever his name is, I could tell the guy was a smart guy, but it seemed he hadn't bothered. He wanted to make it about his his channel's focus. But Tommy Robinson has always been very community-oriented, very victim rights-oriented. He doesn't care about left or right. He doesn't care about international politics. He just wants to expose these people. He doesn't... The amount of time that must take, but he doesn't have time
I also...
to do anything else.
Sorry, I also find it funny that the left or whoever is going to argue why has he changed his name when they're perfectly happy with the mainstream media actually changing his name to former EDL leader Tommy Robinson.
And changing the name of all these rapists in the first place when they come out of prison.
Yeah.
See, that is the absolute maddening thing for me. If you take away everything what Tommy Robinson's done, I'm not even bothered about that bit for this point. But you talk about the Me Too movement, where you're going after people like Morgan Freeman and people of his ilk that probably have never done anything to anybody that's bad in their life. I say probably because I don't know him personally, but possibly. But you look at all the people that are doing things like that with the Me Too movement. Oh, he touched me. He did this. He did that. If there's no fucking money in it, they don't go there because they're not going after these 11-year-olds and 14-year-old girls to prove that they were raped and say that you should listen and believe. They're not doing anything like that at all for these poor young lasses. But yeah, you know, Morgan Freeman, he's a rapist, apparently.
Well, the thing is, as we know from media, the 11-year-old girls were consenting. They were actually asking for it, apparently.
Yeah, but even in the feminist mind, it should still come to the forefront of it's still a Me Too movement because of other different bits and pieces. But it's a case of it's the hypocrisy that I'm trying to drag up. It's the fact that they won't do it because of a certain type of person has done the perpetrating, which if then you push that forward, it then breaks their other narrative. That's what I was trying to bring forward.
Yeah, these girls are seen as worthless chavs, and that's all anybody has to say about them. That's why the feminists don't care. There's no virtue signaling to be had sticking up for these. They are worthless people. They're not always going to be worthless. If you took them and looked after them, they wouldn't be worthless. But as they are pieces of meat who are addicted to drugs, yes, they are worthless, and nobody cares. And that's the real crime of it. And that's where I think it's part organized and part chaos. I never think it's just the NWO or anything like that.
I think it's worse than that. I think everything's been organised to a T to make everybody feel that this is just, it's their Asian rape gangs and the girls are the ones that led them on and everything was that and everything was this. I think the media's silence, even in the Telford bit, proves the fact that there's a form of cover-up because they don't even want to do anything about it.
Is that I agree, but I think it's a case of when you bring the feminists into this and then the Muslims, what it is it's a happy accident. So I think that the paedophilia cover-up goes back to the 70s, you know, when they tried to get themselves legitimized, as you said earlier, and then they found a common ally in these Muslim rape gangs. They found a common ally in these moral relativists on the extreme left and in feminism, because right-wing women don't get praise. It's only left-wing women. You know, Thatcher is the most evil thing on the planet.
Apparently so.
Praise for her as women prime minister.
She wasn't a woman. She was more man than woman.
I've heard that before.
That's why she did so well. Ooh, sexist.
Hey! I've been listening to this whole thing. Don't be getting on Margie now. that was the baddest bitch that ever lived, man.
I completely and utterly agree with you. I was laughing.
I mean, you look at everything she went through, and you know what they tried to do? They tried to make her like she was Tony Blair with G-Dub, right? No.
She was leading Reagan for.
Thank you. I mean, and look, it's an American. I'm telling you now. Yes, in the other instance, yes, you had Tony Blair kowtowing, and the United States was dragging them along like they were a bull with a ring in their nose. But in the 80s, no. Reagan learned a lot from Margie, man. That was one bad bitch, folks, and she understood economics. She understood taking care of her own country. And if you don't like her, that's fine. But I think she was the greatest female leader in history.
Well, if I may, I would like to know what the panel thinks, yay or nay, to this point of, is it happy coincidence of these disparate groups that are anti-nationalist meeting up and joining forces, or do you guys think it's one organization doing it all? I would be interested to know.
Well, we have money flowing. I'm sorry, Common, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it's one complete organization. I'm not saying it's the NWO. I'm not saying it's the Illuminati or any sort of things like that. I honestly think that it goes as far as government services. I think it goes up to government themselves. I think it goes up to the House of Lords myself. Because if you remember, as you quite rightly pointed out, from the 70s and 80s, they were literally fishing kids out of foster homes, which were controlled by social services. But yet, somehow they wasn't actually pulled out at all until obviously police and everything else like were coming out about it. So this is very, very similar, where council members are hiding pieces of paper, hiding evidence. The police are doing the same thing to the point where police are shutting down youth centres and youth projects because they're coming up to them saying, my little girls are being raped. So I kind of think it's very, very similar.
Labour deputy leader.
Okay, well, I would hang on very quickly. I have my hand up. So what I want to say is that, as usual, I disagree with you, Common Sense. I think that what you're saying is true in the ethos of it, but the pathos is this: large sums of money flow from 3 or 4 sources, and I will always go with follow the money. So I'm not in one way. I'm disagreeing with you, because you're saying they all come from one side, and we see that coming from one side. I just don't want to be with, I'm not saying you have them on, my brother, but I'm saying I don't want to have blinders on. So we see them coming from one side, i.e. the left, social justice warrior maniacs, but their money is flowing from Soros, it's flowing from the Council on Foreign Affairs, it's flowing on from the Trilateral Commission. It's flowing from the city of London. So I would say that as far as what we're talking about right now, it's the city of London. And I don't mean London. I think anybody with a brain knows. I'm not talking about London. I'm talking about the mayor of the city of London. It costs him upwards of $1.5 million. And I think it's something like £1 million, 1.2 million pounds a year to be the mayor of the city of London. So that's the only difference I got with Common Sense, is that I think that you're right in one way. It is very grassroots in its manifestation, but it's money. Where does this money come from?
I'm about 98% sure on this, but I actually think that there is 2 mayors of London. You have Sadiq Khan, that is mayor of London, and you have another gentleman that is the mayor of the city of London. I actually think that we have two different mayors.
Oh, yes, that's what I was talking about. And the mayor of London gets paid to do his job. The mayor of the city of London, I can't even tell you his name right here. I feel so ignorant because I'm talking about this like I know about it, but I don't know who it is this year. I think it's a 2-year position. Common Sense guy. Their yearly output from their own pocket for their hats, for the hats they wear, is $50,000. They pay for carriages that horses draw. I think the last time I looked at that, it was over $125,000 for their horses, upkeep, and carriage. It cost them over $1 million to be that. And so what I'm telling you, what I'm saying is,
Charles May I just came. I think the ogre's right in what he's saying, and I think a lot of people don't realise that when you say London, you think of everything within the M25, the whole thing. But there is like a little square mile or so.
All
the businesses flock. Yeah, all the businesses flock, and they live under different rules and regulations to essentially the rest of it.
English Vatican.
Excellent.
All the money in the world is there. And you said Vatican. Everybody knows my scripture. It's the Vatican is the spiritual center. They are now being the Catholics that they are, the universalists that they are, and they are even embracing Muslims. And
that blew my mind, actually. The idea we could be on the next, in the way that they adopted all the pagan religions into Catholicism. That, I think you're onto something there. That would be fascinating if there was a merger between.
There will be, brother Crumple. Catholic means universal. They have, if you look at the Catholics in Mexico, they lost the Dia de Muertos, the Day of the Dead. That is a Catholic festival where they make sugar masks and pray to their dead relatives. Show me in the Bible where that is. Show me where Rome even, but Rome says, quote, this is a crotchet of the great Catholic religion. Another way to say this is we are so universal, we'll accept shit even if it goes against what we preach.
Yeah, they said it was a reinterpretation of Christ's blood sacrifice. That's how they justified it.
For the Muertos, yes, but you know what? They almost say that for every festival because we go into many festivals. So I don't want to get off track. So let's look at it this way. I would say that common sense was correct in his hypothesis, but I would venture that I am also correct in my hypothesis that the money flows.
Mm-hmm.
You fuckers,
to cover both.
and us, and wait, before you go on, and we have the responsibility for the military outflow of that, because when I thought of this when we were talking about Margie and Reagan and Bushy, and it really what it comes down to is what the City of London wants, the Pentagon will enforce, and the Vatican will say is religion.
Could it then, in some ways, be said that there is a system in place with actually no one at the head? This system's been in place for centuries.
Oh, the devil, Satan himself is at the head, sir.
Yeah, and that the City of London is almost a private bank for this system to continually fluctuate itself. And these people we're seeing are just the holders of the next key that they pass on to the next generation. And again, it's all at the cost of the peasants.
I want to know,
truer words never spoken. Yes,
I want to know where the Chinese fit into all this, because they're communists.
They're a society unto themselves.
Well,
let's remember that.
Though, has there been some kind of long-term adoption into the Western system? Are they going to allow the Chinese to remain parallel? The Chinese are imperial. They're determined to take us over. It doesn't seem to me like the unholy trinity that we've described would let that happen very easily. So,
but they have their own mandate of heaven, Crumple Point. You do know about that, right? They have their own system of belief that says they have the mandate of heaven. We could go back to the.
I mean, entirely logistically. Like, is Beijing competing with London? Is London going to absorb Beijing?
You mean Hong Kong?
How's this working?
You mean Hong Kong?
Yeah, no, I think he meant Beijing, but Hong Kong would be more specific. Look, but here's the thing. Let's remember this. How will they do it, Crumple Point? This is the Quinnspiracy. So let's remember, we're talking about the greater things that people don't understand or think about. So how would they do it? The mandate of heaven. We're talking about, so over here in the Western world, we have the City of London, we have the Vatican, and we have the Pentagon. I'm sorry, I stumbled there a little bit. I'm just trying to, I would almost say them in a different order. So we have those things, and we look at those for monetary safety, physical safety. Monetary safety would be the City of London. Physical safety would be the Pentagon, and spiritual safety would be the Vatican. Why do we listen, it is a more base thing than what they make it. Because like you're trying to say, Crumple Point, we are really looking at an economic thing. But now you look at, so Beijing, let's go to Beijing. They do the same thing. You put your faith in community. Do you know that they have something similar to Facebook there, that if you get a bunch of likes, you get, it's easier to get a loan?
Yes.
It's easier to get housing. You get better housing. You get better jobs in government. Did you know that, Crumple?
I'd not actually heard that one at all before. Yeah. And I keep track of these things, and that's a new one on me.
Hand to God. They have their own form of faith, because you do know that they could never watch us in China. No one in China is watching us now because we're not allowed there. They have their own internet.
West is banned.
We're not allowed here. Olga.
Well, they don't have Facebook either or Twitter, but they do. So look, without getting too convoluted, I've been talking a while. I need to let y'all talk. So let's just remember this, that whether it is, as common sense guys said, whatever, or it's consolidated, like I was saying, it doesn't really matter. We are looking at a monolithic conspiracy against you, Jensen Quinn, against you, Maz, against you, Crumple Point, and against you, my vaunted brother, common sense guy. That's what we're looking at.
Well, yeah, we are looking at conspiracy theory against all of us, because let's be honest, any one of us could have been doing exactly the same thing as what Tommy Robinson was doing, and trying to produce the real story, use your freedom of speech, use your freedom of the press to be able to do that for whatever excuses they want to do to say that he was arrested for. But he was there, and we've all can be put into prison for the same thing. In fact, even talking about it at one point, was a case that all of us could have been put in prison just for talking about it.
Yep.
That's how ridiculous the laws are.
How long has this been going on? I mean, today we've some of us have only lived the most 100 years. Anyone has it been going before? We've probably even forgotten why the system started.
Well, this is why I think it's even going by their own philosophies, it would be a mixture of, order and chaos. It would be a mixture of chance and organization. It would be a mixture of groups, because even the aristocracy, they are a bunch of psychopaths, and psychopaths don't respect hierarchies. They will stab each other in the back at the first chance they get. So that's why I think that it isn't like, say, one Illuminati type organization, but I think that it's a group of people with the shared interest of stamping on the little guy.
Mm-hmm.
And, if they can ingratiate themselves, great. If they can get power, great. And then right at the top levels, it's like you're all saying, it's a completely parallel society to ours.
Yeah.
They have whole, it's conspiracy theory, so I shall speak the conspiracy as if it's truth. There's whole sections of London, Paris, Hong Kong, Beijing, Madrid that are walled off and not on maps and not on Google Maps, and you would not know they existed. And it's like that episode of Doctor Who where there's this alley that nobody ever sees except the Doctor because you have to be looking for it.
Yeah.
Whole parallel neighborhoods and everything like that.
Yes.
Yeah. No, completely and utterly agree. There's hidden cities and hidden towns in all of the big financial areas.
Can you people believe this is gun control? We're talking about gun control.
Yeah, we
ain't gonna storm the hidden cities with spoons, are we?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Why we all need to get guns.
Exactly.
We actually have pretty much my dream panel here. I won't say the one. I'll let you all decide amongst yourselves the one that I would not have here right now. But we pretty much have the dream panel. it is you. You got it. No, actually, this is my dream panel for this kind of discussion. It's because, in the end, for those of you watching, it's like, what, these fucking son of a bitches we're talking about gun. Well, you know what? When you start talking about one topic and you start searching your mind for facts and things that, it goes all over the place. Mm-hmm. And what more do we want? Well, listen, boys, can I ask a question before we segue? Because I know I can feel it. Common sense is fitness segue. So what more do we have in life? What is better? We all live. We all are born. We all live. We all die. What's better? The in-between of born and died. What's the most important thing? Isn't it the gaining of knowledge?
Mm.
Yeah, I'm going the next generation on that. That's what I grew up on. That was my whole belief, that just you work to make yourself a better person, and that's the best achievement you can aim for.
I have to say, despite as bad the news gets, and despite as awful the things we all read about, the trend is upward from humanity. Go back, look through history. Things are better than they've ever been, and they're going to continue to be so. It's going to be a bastard to get where we want to get, but it's getting better.
I suppose I'm going to be the one that's going to disagree. I honestly don't feel that knowledge is the best form of pushing forward. Doing what's right is the best thing that's put forward. Knowledge can be a force that can be akin to having the knowledge but not acting upon it, where doing the right thing can be having the knowledge and then acting upon it. Just because you have knowledge doesn't mean that you're going to act upon it. Everybody can sit there and learn, but doing the right thing means that when you do find the knowledge, you can act upon it. And I think doing the right thing is the best thing that anybody can aspire to.
That's fair.
Yep. So we are gonna. If you don't, I will. We are gonna segue to something. And look, I think the end result, if I may, because I think it's time for our last statements on gun control. I will take the nigger seat and go first. I think in the end, I said it all. I can't do it again. If I tried again to be as passionate and as adamant as I was in my opening statement, about the fact that our Constitution gives you this right. You have this right. You are an autonomous human being that has the right to kill me. I forfeit my right to live when I stop you on the highway and aggress toward you. That is the end of my right to live. And if I don't understand that, I shouldn't be a highwayman, should I? And so I would say that in the end, it's not something that is up for debate. I appreciate the debate. I'm glad to hear everybody else's opinion, but it's not up for debate. My God, the great God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and of all good Jews, has made you with the ability that he has, which is end life if it abominates you. And that's it. That's it.
And I'll agree, my non-God kind of agrees with what you're saying. You have the right to defend yourself, and if someone infringes that right, they lose theirs. And that needs to be implemented in law and in prisons, or in law.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with both of you on that one. But what happens if somebody is projecting a big old battle scene in the middle of the sky and is trying to say that the only way of dealing with it is if you give me all of this or give me all of that? Or, I mean, what do you do in that situation?
You either fall for it or you don't.
You stop taking drugs.
There is that.
But Maz, have you seen the pictures?
Which ones?
I'm going to look them up right now in the sky. Lord Quinn, if you could help me too, if you could look up some. All you got to do is type.
Well, while you do that, then, let me just say, because when I first saw this theory, it was they're going to project holographic pictures in the skies, and then it always reminded me of like thinking about Area 51 and the fact that whatever technology we see in the world currently, in the background, in the secret, they're always 25 years ahead. So, they could fly something over us and fire missiles at us that we would not recognize as today's type of aircraft. And we could be conned into believing that that was a spaceship.
No, I have to agree with you that, yeah, it's just a case of, for this particular one, do we think that, should we say the idea of it, Project Bluebeam, is the idea of actually controlling the masses? And do we think that they've used it before, i.e. the Battle of Los Angeles?
Well, because that's what I was going to ask Maz, is what would be the end? I'm looking up some pictures. I've got some now. I'll start.
Originally,
so look. So what if, Maz, before I let you go, so keep whatever you're going to say, but so what if they did convince everyone that there were aliens and they landed? Let's not try to figure out if the aliens were real or contrived by men on Earth. But what then? What would be the end? What is the end to the means?
Well, I don't think it's even about them landing. I think originally the idea was, as I saw it, was the New World Order. Whoever it is, and I just use these names, but they mean nothing anymore. Whoever's in charge wants to control the masses, and the best way to do that is to say, look, there's this big attack. You need to all get behind us, and then we can save you as a government. Give us all your freedom, give us all your wealth, and we can save you. And in some ways, I've always believed that certain governments want to implement martial law. Isn't this an easy way of doing it? Everyone stay in tonight because you might get attacked. And
more than martial law, don't dismiss the New World Order because it's become nomenclature among the plebes. Don't dismiss it.
No, I think the ideas sound. I just think I've given up on the names now.
Oh, I get it, and it's so prevalent. Listen, when I first started, delving into the Illuminati, nobody even knew what the fuck the Illuminati was. About 8 years after I started to delve into it, you had Rockefeller Records, and you had all these people, and you had all these folks coming out saying, "Look at the symbolism," and they were doing that because they were trying to, I believe, make money off this thing. But what about this? I mean, in the end, what is the means to you can see this as I speak. What's and they said that these buildings in the sky, these cities in the sky, they didn't even say that you couldn't see them. You can see them right here. They said it was the reflection of ships way out. And listen, in the scriptures, the Judaic scriptures, it says that a new Jerusalem will descend from the skies. These people in my humble opinion, and mark my words, it may be long after I'm dead, within 100 years, I would guess, but that would probably mean it'd be 1,000. One day, a city will fall from the sky, and these beings will come off of it, and they'll say, "Listen to us and look at us. We came down. You've been seeing us." And they said it, and then whatever they say, I'm nervous about it. I think about the Twilight Zone in the episode. Yes, in the episode, for those of you that know, How to Serve Man.
I think it could be, from what I've read just recently today, it could be the idea that they want to crush all religions on Earth. They don't want people following their own religions anymore. They want people to look at, like you say, something like that and say, look, here is evidence of God. Here is evidence of a new civilization that will save humanity.
So
forget your religion.
You've got to admit that it is very neat, isn't it? Because all these books have an end point where there is the return. So if they engineer that return, then they can rewrite that, or not rewrite, they can write the next chapter, can't they? But
exactly.
I would like to get this out of the way because I want to entertain this Blue Beam idea, but I want to kind of squash it first. But let's get the squashing out of the way so that I can level with you guys. I don't think they need to do this. I think they could have a funny-looking aeroplane land, and with enough UN leaders and world officials, they could have humans come out of it.
All it would take.
They could say it was aliens, and people would just believe it. Look how many people believe that the Da Vinci Code is real, despite Dan Brown saying it's fiction. I swear to God, it was for fun. It would be easy to convince people about the second coming or the aliens.
For example, how many people here believe that Harry Houdini thought there was an afterworld that could influence this world on the panel? Just quickly.
He believed in ghosts and spiritual.
Okay, anybody else? What's the consensus here? What's the consensus here?
I thought he was skeptical, and it was Doyle that was...
Okay, thank God, because there's at least, because the popular myth common sense, I love you, I'm not trying to call you out, I just did it on a spur, but you're absolutely incorrect, common sense guy. He offered so much money in 1915, I believe, 1920, somewhere around there, he offered $50,000 if anybody could prove to him there was an afterlife. He absolutely did not believe in it. Right now, they try to predict, because every year they have a seance around his birthday because he requested them to. He said if he could come back, he would on that day, but he didn't think he could. And so, but you know what's projected, because you're a student, you're a scholar, common sense. So of course you'd remember. Well, he was into finding that, and you would associate. But the fact of the matter is, Harry Houdini did not believe in these things. I agree with you, Crumple Point. They could land a fucking Boeing 747 and say Scientology was right. See these rocket planes that allowed us? We're from Xenu. And they would be like, Xenu.
So long as Obama and Chirac and Sarkozy and Blair were all there on the landing pad to shake their hands, people would believe it.
Fucking hell.
I mean, what is it they discuss in these G20 summits and places like this where they all secretly get together and don't tell the world about what they're talking? Could this be where they're planning this?
Your welfare, Moz. It's all for your welfare.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yes.
Well, they will have
what you're doing.
They definitely have a way to confuse us, because let's face it, if the consensus here is that a plane landing and people getting off and everybody and saying, oh, well, if that could fool them, how could this? I mean, when folks say, I know I'm stuttering here, because when I say Project Blue Beam, it does make me sound like a nut. It's like, they're turning the frogs gay, you know? And I don't want to go full on Alex Jones, but
Over, I have the documents. It's admitted.
it does, but it does make it feasible. We have to realize that if someone is willing to come to you and say a portion of what you make common sense is ours, we're going to use it for the common good, but we're going to take 35%, 40% of anything you ever make based on your own sweat, blood, and tears, so that you know, come on, when we live in these kind of societies, we've been softened up, folks. The NHS is another tool of the New World Order.
And I'm going to now agree with Crumple Point as well, because when I first heard about Project Bluebeam, it was quite a while ago. And obviously, as technology changes, CGI gets better, it would be much cheaper to just land a plane, CGI the news, and do it that way. And obviously, these G20 meetings or whatever meetings, there's from year to year, they're saying, okay, the people know this, how are we going to change our plans? Now they know this, how are we going to change?
People love, you know, that guy Tim Peake, the astronaut. People fucking love that guy. I love that guy. Now, if somebody was to come up to his family and say, "Look, Tim, if you want your family to be around, you're going to give us a really convincing story about that spaceship you saw fly past the International Space Station, aren't you, Tim?" Well, he would have to do it, wouldn't he? And then there you go, more PR. You don't need to do projections and CGI. And
100%.
But the whole idea and the whole the whole point of Project Bluebeam is not to be able to have tangible things in front of you. It is to be able to either produce, as you said before, a city that's produced in front of you, God speaking to you, or Jesus speaking to you, or the fact that an alien invasion is actually being fought above your head at this very moment in time, with the sound effects and everything that's going on. It's not a case of just having an individual action that's happening. It's supposed to be a world-changing event for Project Bluebeam. It's not just supposed to be another form of control. It's supposed to be that bit of control that completely snaps humanity back to the point of following and believing what's going on by the government.
Subconscious control. I'm sorry if I may, though. Crumple Point. I want to just expound this. Just give me 30 seconds. So what you're saying is they're not just targeting your prefrontal lobes, where you actually make just excellent decisions, where you decide. You know, the prefrontal lobes, where you say, I've actually had too many beers. You can't listen to that when you're really drunk, because you go back to what you're talking about. You're saying they are stimulating your medulla oblongata. They're going down to the base root part of your brain that allegedly has been around for millions and millions of years. That part of you that sees a snake in the grass that is green as the grass, but slightly different and has scales, and says, jump back. That's what we're talking about here. They are trying to affect you. That's why we get the racist. I mean, God save me. They are doing away with Roseanne Barr's show, highest rated show of the season, doing away because she made a comment that had nothing to do with it's snake in the grass. Go ahead, Crumple Point. That's all. I mean, this stuff kills me, man. This is so psychological that when I stop to think about it, any basic bachelor degree abnormal psych graduate could easily map out something like what we're talking about, where we see a control of the base animal operations of a human being.
Yeah.
Could I just jump in and say quickly?
I cut Crumple off, but of course you can. I'm sorry, Crump.
Sorry,
No, Moz, go ahead. I was just going to talk generally on what Ogre was saying, so go ahead.
You only have to look at the way advertising works today to know that what Ogre's just said is right. Advertising works.
Yeah,
it does.
Make these assumptions in an advert that, you know, like just the way the person looks, what they're doing, what they're using the product for, like all these assumptions are made before they even start advertising. It's like you say, but if you look at Darren Brown, he's shown time and time again that you just need a finger snap at the right time to get people to do the most complex of tasks. So if I wanted to control a town, let's use Bluebeam. Let's say I'm going to use it for something. I still wouldn't need CGI and stuff like that. Let's say we wanted to just empty the town Silent Hill style, right? Without any alarms, without any news reports. Just empty the town. All you'd need is manipulate the local newspaper, put certain words in certain places, maybe put something in the water, or say there's been a gas leak and people need to take these tablets, something that makes them either suggestible or anxious, and then just a flash in the sky at the right time. You know, a radio broadcast with certain words in it. People would just freak out and run away. Like, it's ridiculous the amount you can get people to agree to or to perform. And then if enough people do it, mass hysteria sets in, and even people who are not suggestible still go along with it, because they are rationally going, oh, the whole town's doing it, I better join in or I'll be the only guy left.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, let's look back at when war was broadcast. What happened then? People to their own devices, and everyone panicked.
Yeah, true. Very, very true on that one. I still think that the idea of Project Bluebeam is more of a case of, say, for instance, what we were talking about at the beginning, when, say, the government does come a little bit tyrannical, whatever government, you can pick any government you want, comes a little bit tyrannical, and it comes to a point where they're almost about to have a civil war with people and everything again. And just to be able to change everybody's mind and realize that the government is there to help you, which we all know is not, but say that that's what they wanted to portray, then they just produce something up in the sky that's going to freak everybody out. And that's done. Everybody can see it. People would video it. It would then be a point of it being mass news and social media news within instances, and it would spread like wildfire.
Yeah, and you'd be able to prove that the video hadn't been tampered with, actually, because they filmed something. The camera wasn't messed with. It was filming something that was messed with. So that's a good point. That's a good point. I'd heard that they'd ditched Bluebeam for a sonic-based thing rather than a visual one, though, using the phones and the cell towers. Again, Quinnspiracy, so I may not believe this outside the Quinnspiracy, but I will speak it as truth here. They were using the cellular towers and inaudible noises from your phone to cause just basic emotions like sedation or anxiety or excitement, and your brain picks up on it even though your ear can't pick up on it. And they were just trying stuff like that out because they found it was much more effective and cheap to do that than to holographically have Tupac up in the sky coming at you.
I mean, that in itself is a good point. I mean, how much of technology nowadays, how much is actually in it that we don't know about and is doing things?
Yeah, well, that's true. But also you can use the same point as well. Well, technology is not as expensive as it used to be. I mean, we've got things that computers and quantum computers that are starting to come out and everything else like that. And we're thinking that the idea from the government of being able to produce a holographic device is going to be expensive for the government to be able to do. Because you only need, what, 3 or 4, 5, lasers in a particular point. And there you go, you've got a holographic image that everybody can see without a beam being attributed to it.
Or you've got flashing lights on a craft you've never seen before.
Exactly. Battle Los Angeles.
But this is why they replaced MK Ultra with PSYOPs, because they found out that social drivers are far more powerful and easy to elicit than a big elaborate drug-induced thing. So there is that as well. But I wouldn't put it past them. Put it that way. And hello memes.
Hey.
Yeah, memes. I gave him the link. Common sense.
That's fine.
I just want to. It's where he's gonna be polite. But here's the thing. Somebody tell me how to say this person's name with a H at the end in the chat.
Sharati.
Okay, that's what I thought. Sharati. Welcome, Sharati. You have lots of wonderful things to say. Yes, it took me that long, and it was a long time ago. But I'm mentioning you now on air, and this rarely happens. Common Sense Guy and I get 2 times a show. We've agreed on to mention people in the chat because we want to get. So whatever reason we have, this is my one time. Welcome, brother. It took me a long time to notice it before because I don't look at the chat always. I'm looking over to make sure that Lord Quinn didn't send me something in Discord. I mean, I'm doing a lot of different things. So if I'm on Common Sense Guy, look, if you want me to notice what you said, come see us. And I'll just say it now. The 9th is our grand reopening on my main channel after a 90-day strike. So come back for the We're Back Bitches with our Minister of Fun, Jensen Quinn, and the Lord of What the Fuck's Up, Common Sense Guy. We'll be having a good time. So join us then. We're back on track though. Thanks, Common Sense. I didn't think you'd mind if I sent it to memes. There is a lot of us here, folks. So I need now to remember that and shut the fuck up. What were we talking about?
Project Bluebeam.
Yes, but it's been getting on into the tooth, been getting long in the tooth. I'm going to say that, as we've said, to tie it back into the first thing, kind of, as we move on here, we are up against something that JFK warned us about, a monolithic thing. It's something that's so huge. It's an obdurate, monolithic stone in front of us that it's more of a mountain. It's a mesa. It's this immovable object that's placed in front of us. And it's not a tangible thing. It's something that we can only imagine, which in all reality, what's the worst thing? The fear that you know or the fear you imagine? And this is, boys and girls, from gun control to Project Blue Beam to John of Nepomuk, it's the same thing. It's the idea of controlling you on a base level that you don't even know you're being controlled. You are actually a puppet. Let me put it this way as I kick it off to you all, and I don't know if Common Sense Guy's even ready to go. I do want to talk a little bit about John of Nepomuk, about this patron saint of not saying anything, even if it would help or hurt or doesn't matter, keeping your mouth shut. But the fact of the matter is, the monolithic thing we strive against, it's out to kill us whether we know it or not.
Most things are. Most things are always out to either kill the people that are in front of it, and that includes animals, obviously, as in a naturistic point, or they're out to fuck it, because those are the most basic instincts that any animal, and yes, we are an animal, has, either to fuck it or to kill it. Those are the two basic instincts that any animal has. You just got to choose what one's going to be the one that you're going to be choosing tonight. I'm hoping for the fucking.
Yeah. Well, these people that we're up against, the ones that say, you know, look over here while they're, you know, they say, watch my hand while they're putting a rabbit in the hat and then pull it out and say, ta-da. These folks have one solid thing in common, something that never changes amongst themselves. And that is, you ever hear the term, boys, snitches get stitches?
Yep.
Well, that's a trickle down. That's something that is that is stolen from and why can man, I'm looking to screen share. I can't even find my damn. I'm still here. Oh, there it is. Okay. Good God, folks. I got 15 tabs opened up. I'm so sorry. 15 tabs. So here it is. It's something that is they've stolen from the hierarchy. And that's what the way society is. It all trickles down. We have this St. John of Nepomuk. St. John of Nepomuk or John Nepomucci. And there's a lot of Latin in here, folks. And when I learned Latin, I did it all phonetically. In other words, I paid somebody to say the Latin word while I watched it. And then I went and did my exam and passed it, thank God. So I'll do my best here with the Latin stuff. So it's Janus Nepalki, and that's Czech. And the German is Janus Nepomuk. And Latin is Leones Nepomucinos. So there you go. Yeah. Thank you for the chuckles. Was good. I did my very best, as I said I would. So he is but here's the important part. He's the Saint of Bohemia, and that's Czechoslovakia now, Czech now, but the Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia, who was drowned in the Vintava River at the behest of Wenceslaus, king of the Romans and king of Bohemia. Later accounts state that he was the confessor of the Queen of Bohemia and refused to divulge the secrets of the confessional. So all the other stuff, my mumbling and stumbling around all those big names, this is the important part. The king of Wenceslaus, King Wenceslaus, the king of the Romans and the king of the Czech Republic as now, was asked of someone, my wife confessed to you. She told you all of her sins. And he went so far, legend has it, as to say, I know she told you how it was one way or the other. Either she said nothing or she told you, yes, I've done this thing. Please absolve me. Tell me what it was. And you can see that what Nepomuk, St. John, decided to do was to be drowned in a river. This, folks, this thing, I hope that wasn't too stumbling of an entry. But this thing is what we're up against. We're up against a society of people that, from the Skull and Bones, from the Trilateral Commission, from the Council on Foreign Affairs, from the Bohemian Grove itself, has decided weaving spiders come not here. They tell you that means that while you're here, you shouldn't talk about work, and we shouldn't, go into the interworkings of our individual acumens. But that's not true. What they're trying to tell you is, St. John of Nepomuk, we keep a tight lip. We have Agenda 21. We are doing all the things we talked about before without going in ad infinitum. It's about time somebody took over right now, as a matter of fact, from me. But this is what we're looking at. We're looking at people that are so ingrained in snitches get stitches that they would be involved in Agenda 21 itself, and say to get society back down to 500 million, 500 million, to kill off 7.5, right? Is that right?
Roundabout.
Billion people. So I got to say, my question is this. Since I was the one that got this story, I'll just ask this question to the panel. Is loyalty and secrecy paramount? Is that the best thing in life?
No. No idea. As I said before, the best thing in life is doing the right thing. Doing the right thing may mean that you go against friendships. Doing the right thing may mean that you go against governments. But it's always going to be the right thing. So it's always going to be beneficial.
Hear, hear.
Carry on, lads. I sucked a lot of oxygen. So go on. I mean, I know this is arcane, but I want you to continue to consider as you comment the idea, is keeping secrets a good thing? And if so, how is it, and how could it be a bad thing? That's the whole conspiracy theory here. Because if we keep secrets, we can say that we buy screwdrivers for $50,000 in 1988 at the Pentagon, can't we?
Exactly. But that's the whole point, isn't it? Secrets are there for people that need to hide things. It's the old additive. If you're doing nothing wrong, then it doesn't matter if people find out what you're doing. But it only matters if people find out what you're doing if you're doing something wrong. Same thing for things like CCTV and things like that, which I know is a different kettle of fish for most people, but it's the same concept. It's the case for me that the conspiracy theories that we've all been talking about have all been kept secrets. So if you believe in keeping secrets is a good thing, then you believe that conspiracy theories and the government controlling you through those conspiracy theories is a good thing. And that just proves how strong the mind control is on you. The fact that you would actually believe that keeping secrets is a good thing. And now, yes, everybody has little white lies, white little secrets that they might keep and things like that. Yes, I'm not saying that every secret needs to be told, but most secrets, they're not really secrets. They're only what we personally don't want to tell people because we think people will think less of us.
That's a really good point. Well said all the way through, but that's a really good point. Is there's a difference between a private matter and a secret, you could argue, because a secret could be something that's just undiscovered, or it could be something that must remain under wraps for somebody's safety, or a private matter is just something you would have between friends. I mean, I've kept secrets for people for years and years and years. If somebody put my feet to the fire over it, I'm pretty sure that most of my friends would rather I just fucking told the person than was injured. But at the same time, that's up to me to know what would they want and how much is this secret worth. But the other thing is all these societies that Mr. Ogre refers to, etc., they don't keep secrets. They use secrets. I mean, you get bored of watching gangster movies because the plot of every gangster movie is, oh, you never snitch, and then the top guy is always the snitch. It's always the same, and it's the same in government. It's the same in the church. It's the same in the intelligence services. I mean, Snowden blew that one wide open, didn't he? Because he said, oh, yeah, none of this is top secret. It all just gets passed around all the agencies of the world, depending on who knows who at what wine and cheese party. There's no such thing as a secret. And the thing is that the other side of that is, if you can keep a secret, you are automatically valuable to these people. You're valuable to power, because they know that even if they say extract a secret from you, they can then use you later. So somebody who can keep a secret is very valuable to these people. But no, it's not the most important thing in life. Loyalty is extremely important. But yeah, loyalty is important because trust is important. And if these sorts of anybody who wants power over you breaks your sense of trust in others, because we're social animals, that affects your sense of reality itself, and they can get you to believe all sorts of mad shit. So that's my take on it.
Could I just add a little bit to that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, take over.
In the fact that I agree with what you're saying, but for me, secrets, it's your intention behind the secret. And it's not true, if I told Mr. CSG that I like to wear dresses on the weekend and he kept that secret.
You weren't going to say.
Well, I feel I'm amongst friends. And he kept that secret. That's not hurting anyone, and it's saving me a little embarrassment. But if me and Mr. Ogre were keeping a secret from Mr. CSG to purposefully take some money out of his pocket, then that is bad. I think it's the intention of your secret, why you're doing it.
I hope that everyone here and everyone that's watching sees the underlying reason why I brought this up, but Maz just hit on it to the fullest extent. So I think my last word on this is all y'all can suck my dick. Not you all here, but all y'all.
Fair point. But I do feel that some people in the chat are going, oh, but what about this bit? What about this bit? It's like you're trying to pick up on specific points. So we're trying to explain what the actual whole idea is, which is the point of the secrets themselves. No, they're not a good thing. Yes, people themselves can have secrets, but secrets themselves from government should never be in place or implemented, because the government is supposed to be there to serve us.
Common
not the
sense.
other way around.
Can we have a slight break, a little break of all this serious stuff? Can I have like maybe 45 seconds of a small break?
Sure.
This, my friends, is the prize bud off a friend of mine's Bubba Kush plant. This is the very top cola off of that. It weighs 9.5 grams. I have yet. I mean, he's my bro, and I help him a lot with growing stuff. I actually do a lot of work in his grow room because he's, with all honesty, inept, and I just want to help him. This came out so good. It was flushed for 15 days. It was grown for a total of 62 days in bud, and I am now, in honor of my brother Common Sense Guy stream, going to pop this bottom bud right here off of that nugget. It's got to be a gram bud right there, and I'm going to pack it and smoke it. So thanks to everyone here, man. I love humanity in a way that I can't express. I try to, but it always comes out short, folks. It always comes out short. And I want to do what I often recommend right now, since I've been given this time. I am sorry, folks, for what I am. And I mean that. I don't mean that in a cliche. I mean, I understand my faults, and I know that I'm abrasive, that I'm aggressive, that I am the unfortunate quintessential alpha asshole. And I thank everybody here that's here with me for being here with me, and thank first and foremost Common Sense Guys. So that said, I'm breaking it up, Common Sense, and this is the end of me. This is the end of my. In fact, I think I went over half a minute or a minute. This is the nice end of that bottom bud. It's going right into the bowl. This, my brother, my beautiful brother. I've never seen a man more beautiful than you, Common Sense. I've said it before. I'll say it again. You look like a cherub to me. You look like the angel that will welcome me to heaven. Not just because you're big, but because you're big and cherubic and look like you could kick somebody's ass like an angel should be able to. So here's to you. And more than that, folks. And this time when the Queen of England, I know I'm going over my time, bear with me. This time when the Queen of England had to watch her grandson marry, and the whole thing that I'm sure brought so much joy to her heart. God save the Queen. Queen Elizabeth, my heart goes out to you, and I now and to my death will respect you. God save the Queen.
There you go. God save the Lizard Queen.
That's next week. That's next week, man.
Has everyone spoken on secrets? Because I have a counter question for the panel once they've answered. Has everybody answered?
I don't think memes has.
What? I haven't answered. What are we talking about? Oh, that was a good hit.
Yeah, I don't think memes has. Did you want to carry on, memes? Are you there, buddy?
Can't hear you.
Probably.
He keeps leaving and joining.
No.
Okay. Well,
you said memes.
Yeah, memes. If you do come through memes, we'll come back to you. But at the moment, we can't hear you, so we're going to carry on. So, Crumple Point, if you want to carry on.
Yeah, they are related, so he can answer both if he needs to. Does a secret have to be true to be a secret?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. In fact, I think the most secrets are lies.
But so
otherwise, why wouldn't we bring them out into the light?
Does the secret still have value if it's untrue? Does it have more value if it's true?
More value if it's untrue. But I'll preface that by saying that Mark Twain said a lie gets all the way around the world before. A lie gets all the way around the world before the truth ties its shoes.
Yeah.
So I would say the lie has much more power.
Which is why most people always believe the lie first, which is why media sources, i.e. newspapers, will print out a story and then do a retraction that's, I don't know, a third, an eighth, a tenth of the actual size, and go, oh yeah, we were wrong, sorry. But it doesn't matter, the damage is already done. It doesn't matter how many times that you point to that retraction, people will always point to the story as being the truth.
Yes.
But so the thing with before Moz goes ahead is I was thinking of if you imagine being the keeper of a secret that you believe to be true and found out that the secret was a lie, surely it becomes worthless. Or does it?
Oh, that's
you see what I mean?
Somebody else says I've been talking a lot. That was deep. Nobody's got nothing on that.
I do. That's literally exactly what I just said. It at that point in time, it's a case of if you were to put a lie out and say, for instance, I don't know, Diana actually died underneath a tunnel, but then somebody comes out and says, oh no, the Queen did it. You're going to believe the lie first because it was the first story that come out, and that's the one that's been integrated into society. So the lie is more important, is more valuable than what the truth is. It depends on when you actually spout the lie. If you spout the lie first, then the lie is always going to be believed rather than the truth. It's why some people always say that the conspiracy theory that comes out, most people don't believe it because the newspapers have already got to it first and goes, this is what we're doing. And then the conspiracy theory, with whatever evidence it has, shows that it's not true. And you're always going to believe the newspapers first.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, come on. Somebody else got some stuff. They're just waiting their time. And they think I'm going to jump in. I'm done. I'm waiting for y'all.
Well, I was just wondering if secrets are subjective. I mean, going back to me saying I tell a secret to Mr. CSG about me wearing a dress on a Saturday, which is not true. But isn't that more because I'm worried about what people are going to try and second guess?
Sorry,
that, as opposed to me. Yeah, sorry, I'm.
You keep on dropping in and out, mate.
Yeah, I was going to do the Domo Arigato, but he's not roboting. He's just dropping in and out. I was going to go Domo, I go Domo Arigato, but he's not roboting. You're dropping in and out, Moz. What's up with your fucking mic? I seen that guitar. Do you want to sell that guitar you got? I'm asking you online.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about that, but I think it's my internet. I think it's my internet. So
350 does that offend you? I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you what I would do. I would give you $250 in that 1978 Flying V behind me that you can see right there if you were willing to do a trade. and it's the real deal. I did take, you can see I took one of the zebras out, and the top pickup is not a zebra pickup from 1978. I put that in from my SG. I stole one of the zebras out of it. So, I mean, I did do it. But anyway, think about that. I would trade you that flying V so you weren't out of guitar. And I'd pay, I don't know what I just said. I'll be honest with you. I'd be, because it's out of the paper. So we'll talk about it later. Actually, we'll talk about it later. I love that guitar, though. The one with the dib. Did you have that airbrushed for you specifically? Or did you buy it? Oh, fuck. He's dropping out. I tried. So there we go. Oh, MCJK's here too. Dude, I didn't think MCJK was going to show up. So, good God, I'm going to leave now so you got more room, common sense. What's up, MC? Have you been paying attention to the conspiracy theories that we talked about tonight? And if so, you don't have to hit on John of Nepomuk. I kind of sent you the link when we were a little bit earlier on, because I thought that maybe your experience that you've had through life, you know, might give some light on Project Blue Beam. Does the government really do this kind of shit? Are we just crazy? So holy fuck, common sense guy's gonna kick me off if I don't shut up.
I would like to quickly ask
run
common sense after as well.
That's what you're asking?
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, it just, because I'm not asking you to be specific either, because a lot of people know you in a way that would be, you know, so I'm not trying to get you. What I'm saying is, are we crazy for thinking that the government may have things like Project Blue Beam in the works to project things, you know, on the sky to control the masses?
They're trying to do things on the sky, not necessarily to control the masses, but to do other things.
Enlighten us, brother. That's what I'm talking about.
That's all I'm going to say about it.
Oh, come on. Nothing. Come on, MCJK, for old time's sake. Nothing. Give us a little, give us something that we can go on. But if
you're trying to mislead things, especially in a battlefield environment, all right, and get people to go in a direction, especially the enemy, in a specific way, all right, you're going to try and create false images. One of the things that we quickly discovered in war is that SIGINT information, all right, if it's strictly just SIGINT and not IMINT, all right, which is image intelligence, isn't believed anymore. All right, it's very faulty.
What's
signals intelligence?
Okay, so SIGINT's intelligence and
signals intelligence is SIGINT.
And what's the other one you said?
IMINT.
IMINT. So it's SIGINT, that's just intelligence, and IMINT. Okay,
which is imagery or imagery intelligence.
Continue.
All right, the imagery intelligence is far more profitable. It's far more believable. All right, because eyes on are more important. All right. However, even with those types of information, you can dummy up an entire division just by having a couple people drop a couple of radios in the background and create chatter that the enemy is going to pick up. All right. And it could just be routine type of chatter that they would expect. And they would be able to say, okay, some of this is encrypted, some of this isn't encrypted. So therefore this is a headquarters thing from the type of information that we're seeing in this routine traffic. It's an entire division and it's completely phony. All right.
No, that's one thing. We've done that for years, though. But is it crazy for me to think, and continue if you don't even want to address this, just continue on the way you are. But is it crazy for me to think, by what you're just saying, did they project Muhammad and Jesus fighting in the clouds in Desert Storm? Is that in any way could that be looked at as serious, or is that just utter bollocks?
No, that didn't happen.
So in other words, they're taking what.
They could do such a thing, and it would be something that would be done if they were trying to run a psyops operation.
Okay. All right. So in other words, they could do that, though. So I'm not just absolutely crazy to think that the government could do that.
There are things we can do.
Okay. All right. Carry on.
Conditions have to be specific.
I know better than to interrupt when you're yarning, man. Carry on.
All right, but the reason they would want to create imagery, all right, has to do with people have learned that it's very easy to phony up signals. All right, so people wouldn't know this. So what they do is they use that in combination with some kind of imagery, all right, that can be created or can be viewed at. during World War II, for example, when they were creating the phony divisions of Patton in England, all right, for the attack on the port of Calais. What they were doing was they were actually blowing up fake tanks in addition to the radio signals, all right, to create the look of an entire division and an entire movement that would be around it, all right? Why? Because they understood that there's a limit to signals intelligence that you can gather that for what people will be able to see and what people will know, all right? Generally, what you can do now with some of when conditions are specifically correct, all right, with the ionosphere is we know how to bounce things off the ionosphere, all right? How we can do that, to what degree that we can do that, largely depends on time of day, wind conditions, several other factors. But we know what those factors are, all right, and we can account for them to a degree. All right.
As someone that was a commissioned officer and was kind of something in the military, would you do that? Would you use what you're talking about, and if so, why?
Well, the main thing we would do is, for example, if you're trying to get an enemy to waste ammo or to focus on a specific area. For example, you could create an entire look of perhaps airborne rangers coming in and dropping into a specific area that's in a certain area to draw out troops from that area to go in there.
Never thought of that. Okay. So in other words, you could make it look like there were fucking airborne rangers dropping down. Okay. All right.
Well, that you started seeing, parachutes opening and so forth, especially at night, where you're seeing the.
Yeah, well, so are you
have at him, boys? He's not here very often. Please, very, very rarely. MCJK, be ready, boys. Get at him.
Yeah, no, I was just said in the chat. I wish he turned up earlier because like this is so all the things I was referring to earlier were more the government against a population as opposed to a war scenario. So, do you think it would be more feasible, given that all the psyops stuff and a lot of these chemical agents, they require delivery systems, but surely bouncing light off of, particularly, say, something like a sandstorm, if you were to simulate gunfire within that sandstorm, just with light, to focus an enemy's attention, would you say that was feasible and you could sneak around the back that way?
Oh, it's very feasible to do that.
Would it be a probable tactic, or am I just in fantasy land there?
It would depend upon the availability and whether or not because you got to understand when you can use such technology. In a sandstorm, yeah, you could do something like that very effectively. All right, but you have to be ready, knowing that there's a probable sandstorm coming in at that point to do it, or you have to create the sandstorm. And there's some ways to basically do that. You could just drive trucks in certain areas.
What?
Well,
yeah,
hey, you can create a fairly small size sandstorm just by driving tracks back and forth very, very quickly through sand.
Okay, all right. Okay. So you're not talking. Okay. All right. Thank you for clarifying that. Because when you said that, I was like, what? I was thinking about like DARPA or some shit.
No. Not on nothing on that kind of scale. I mean, the kind of things people are talking about. The scale
just
is
enough to build a virtual screen. Is basically
canvas.
Right. To throw something on. You can do that. Now in the desert, yeah, that would work very effectively. Is that going to work like in a jungle, though? No, that's not going to work in a jungle. You'd have to do something else. And in fact, most things that when you talk about doing this kind of operations in a jungle, it tends to be from sound, where they're creating certain sound echoes and to try and get people to think that other things are happening because of the limited visibility.
Be damned, man. You see, I wish he was on earlier too, but we're here now. So we see that the idea of the Project Bluebeam goes so much deeper. I mean, whereas, I may think one-dimensionally about it, the government may have audible cues, is what you're talking about, where they may hear something that sounds like an AR-15 firing over, you know what I mean? And
well,
so they draw
that, but mainly what they do with that is basically vehicles or some kind of track, some kind of noise for like setup, stuff like that. Like tracks in an area, trucks in an area, driving through, to try and create them, to get them to move, to get them to react. The whole goal is to get the enemy to react and hopefully in a manner that you expect, but if for no other reason, just so you can observe how they react to these kind of things.
So my question then, as a follow-up to that, is, in your mind, is it likely as a tactic, or is it just easier to spy, to buy somebody off, to just give the troops more guns? Is it a likely tactic, or would they just do one of the former suggestions?
Okay, it's what they call a force multiplier. Troops are expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they would rather use, especially in the modern age, there's a focus on doing things. The more you can do with technology, the less you can do with actual forces, with actual troops on the ground. All right, the better. And the reason for that is very simply fewer body bags. All right, populations don't tolerate body bags very well. All right, so the ideas of mass use of troops is very, very much something that they're trying to avoid. But what they'll use it for, like I said, is what they call force multiplier. All right, how much? What they mean by that is in a unit, a single unit, how much more effective can it be if you add these other options involved in it and technology to them? While it seems costly to you, me, and everybody else when it comes to the Pentagon budget, right? Overall, when you're dealing with that or having to accommodate that same thing with the same number of troops that you have to pay, you have to keep fed, all the logistics involved in keeping that warfighter at the front and effective and fighting, it's actually quite a bit cheaper. Does that answer your question?
So that does answer my question, because I was wondering, a question of cost. Is it cheaper to send in more weapons? Is it cheaper to, spy, or is it cheaper to use these tactics? And so it's cheaper to use the tactics. Right.
Yeah, generally it's cheaper to use the tactics, but once again, that only takes place when you are in combat. Prior to combat, of course, they're going to try and use spies.
Common sense guy. Before we since we backtracked, before we lose MC, are you there? Can we go on? Because and carry on to this. I don't want to just abruptly cut it. Before we lose MC, we're going to go on to the Robert Kennedy assassination, MC, and maybe talk about a couple things that you may or may not know about. At least you could give us a perspective as you have here, because I want to, I always do it. I like a kiss your ass because I know you don't like that, MC, but I want to say whatever he says, man, it's the guy's opinion. You can see him on the red eye. You can see the guy all around. So he does give his opinion, but he doesn't speak for the military. He doesn't speak for anybody. He just is giving you a perspective that, honest to God, I couldn't get anywhere else. I know him and my wife have talked about mostly cancer, like eradication, but the guy does know about these things from an outside scope. But MC, to protect you, it's just your opinion, correct, sir? We don't know anything, any of this to be rooted in fact. So what's up, Common Sense? We're gonna move on to the assassination. Are we done with? Let's see. We went from gun control, Project Bluebeam. I just brought it back from Nepomuk, from St. John of Nepomuk. That was just pretty much a segue anyway. Is there anything else, my benevolent host?
I don't know. It depends on what everybody else wants to talk about. If everybody else is still happy talking about what's going on with this, then that's fine. If everybody wants to move on, then we'll move on.
Yeah, just bear in mind we're not going to have MCJK. I know it's his day off. I think he does help another stream pretty often. I don't know if he's going to have to go, but if we can get him here just for this little bit of the Robert F. Kennedy assassination, it may be good. If he was gone and saw this and came back, maybe Crumple Point would say again, "Oh, too bad he wasn't here when we were talking about that particular thing." That's
well, in that case, then why don't we let MC kick it off then? I'm sure he would understand what the actual premise is, or do you want to kick it off and then shoot it straight to MC?
Well, let me give him a little primer, because I'm sure he can educate me a lot more on this. So, in 1968, I believe, at the Good Samaritan Hospital in Los Angeles, California, Robert F. Kennedy was pronounced dead from a gunshot wound to the back of his head, right above his, I believe, right ear. I might be wrong in the ear. Now I will pull up some of my information on this. He was assassinated, allegedly, by a man named Sirhan Sirhan, who is still alive in the California penal system, being fed and housed by the benevolence of the United States government. There are some things that came up in that investigation, such as there was allegedly a lady wearing a white dress with, I believe, purple polka dots. Common sense, guys, is that correct? Purple polka dots? You're the one that knew
red.
Red polka dots. Okay, I knew you were the one that knew the color. White dress with red polka dots. It was running down the back stairs of the Ambassador Hotel, yelling, "We killed Robert Kennedy. We killed Robert Kennedy." So if that's enough of a prior, MCJK, I agree with everybody else. I will shut up with my reading. And we'd like to know, I mean, what do you know about this? What do you think about this? Did it tie into his brother being assassinated? Did it tie into Malcolm X? Did it tie into Martin Luther King? Anything that you'd like to let us know, and you kick us off.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I know about as much as everyone else knows about the JFK assassination from what I've read. I don't know anything any specifics to anything per se about this. I would say that first of all, the JFK assassination took place in a kitchen of the hotel. All right. So that for people that don't know this, 1968, there were a number of things that were going on within the United States. You just had you had a new election coming up. They just finished the Tet Offensive. All right. Where the NVA created a situation where they expected the Viet Cong to do a mass rising in the city in January of '68. Nice. This led to a series of battles, the most famous of which, of course, are Khe Sanh and the Battle of Hue, or Hue, depending upon how you want to pronounce it, where a lot of U.S. troops were engaged in fierce combat, specifically in the Battle of Hue or Way. The United States was once again involved in house-to-house fighting, hand-to-hand fighting, which we hadn't even trained for since, people had believed that house-to-house fighting would never take place ever again. All right. This led to a number of casualties and a number of mistakes that were made during that battle. And of course, the ramifications of that were the famous quote from Walter Cronkite, who said that this doesn't look like we're winning the war. Right? Came from that. Came out of that. So JFK was running as which was unusual. All right, because he was attempting to run against a sitting Democrat at the time, which was Johnson. Johnson was the president of the United States. He was the vice president who took over from his brother. No, I'm sorry, not Johnson. Johnson had. I apologize. He wasn't running against Johnson. He was running against Wallace, George Wallace.
Wallace, yeah, I was about
and Hubert Humphreys, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yes, sir.
It could have been Hubert Humphreys.
Just looked it up.
Because
Wallace Humphreys.
Johnson had decided not to run for re-election, which theoretically he could have done. He even though he served as president of the United States under his brother JFK, he didn't serve enough time as president of the United States to violate the 26th Amendment of the thing. So, but that's about what I really know about it. I don't really know that much more about it.
A hell of a lot more than what I knew. Do you think there was anything, but like just as a, obviously you're only going on facts at that moment in time, but in your personal view, do you think there was anything untoward on that? Do you think there's any particular organization that might have been after him, or do you think that there was a political motive behind it?
Well, he's just said he'll be right back in the chat.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. What about anybody else then?
Well, I find this fast.
Sorry about that.
You go.
What was your question again? I'm sorry.
Oh, Miss MC. My question was, do you think there was anything political behind it? Do you think there was any organization that might have done it? Do you think there was a foreign power that could have been behind it? And I know that you normally deal in facts, but as a personal opinion.
First of all, to think that there could have been a foreign power involved in it, that's always a possibility. All right. But to be honest, I don't think it was that so much. I do believe that if there was a conspiracy, it could very well have been related to the assassination of his brother, in regards to the fact of how they were dealing with the mob, and what they were doing. Now, people don't know this about RFK. RFK also served as JFK's attorney general, and
Yes,
he had gone and illegally wiretapped several mafia head
Yes,
bosses
sir.
and used that to gain information, specifically on their on their the money trail, and then put them in jail, of course, for violating the tax law, saying, okay, we have all this money, where's the money at, right? And then, of course, claimed that that's not where he got the information, because he knew he couldn't get any of the other information. I mean, if you have a recording of him setting up a hit, you still couldn't use it in a court of law, and he knew that, right? But what he did do is he was able to use that to find out where they were hiding their money, right? And then basically subpoena those areas, right? Saying, okay, well, we want to see the records here where this money is being held. Right, the mafia, for whatever reason, we really don't understand why, kind of took offense to that, and they were very vociferous about it. And this is one of the reasons why people believe that JFK was assassinated was actually not a political hit in and of itself, but more of a criminal hit from the mafia. I don't discount that as a possibility. I mean, those possibilities do exist.
Ruby makes it hard to discount it.
Well, Ruby does make. There are questions about Ruby that nobody can answer, or that we know about. There's just too many unanswered questions there.
Yeah.
Well, my little theory for JFK, obviously not Bobby, but JFK, is I think that he was actually taken out by multiple people. I think it's at least two different shooters, or at least two different attempted shooters, should I say? Bobby, I'm not too sure about.
It's a possibility, all right, especially in one regard. All right, people talk about how he was shot in the back of the head, and therefore they don't think that Sirhan could have been the one who did it. I disagree with that intensely. All right, but here's why. What very well could have happened is, as he was going through the hotel in the back, all right, somebody could have flashed a gun or done something to cause the Secret Service that was around there at the time to focus forward, causing him to turn. All right. Basically get down, at which point he was shot. So there could have been multiple people involved in this. It's very, very possible.
Oh, that's right.
Just like our blue beam of our fake sandstorms. It's a crazy world.
When you're doing these, basically it's just basic misdirection. When you're doing that kind of an operation, is you want the focus to be somewhere else when you're doing this kind of an operation.
Yeah. The thing I was going to say, unless you want to go first, Over.
Oh no, I was just agreeing, dude. I'm just listening. I talked a lot at the beginning of this. I got to listen.
Yeah, the thing I was thinking about is my opinion on JFK, and this leads neatly back to our thing about secrets, and before that about, is it one organization or is it several? I think that JFK had become a liability to the government or the deep state or whatever, and an irritation to the mob. And so the mob may well have been the hitmen, and the government had done nothing about it or gave them the wherewithal to do it. Now,
I never thought MC would say that, but I agree with both you boys.
Mm-hmm.
So that then leads me to Bobby Kennedy, in the sense that Oliver Stone's work on covering what Bush and McCain got up to in the Golden Triangle, the heroin trade, leads me to believe that if the dates, it's rough, and I'm young. I didn't live through all this, so this is guesswork, a lot of it, but we are conspiring here.
We are.
It's like that at some point towards the sort of 70s, there was almost like two competing factions within the American state. And I don't mean Republican, Democrat, I just mean two competing factions in the deep state. And it's like one got one over on the other, i.e., I think it was probably like commies and commie sympathizers and the very deep military type law. Anyway, so getting to the point. And I think it's possible that because JFK was an irritation to the mob, got hit off, the military types were happy to let that happen because he was a liability. He was blabbing secrets to the Russians. He was fucking up military operations for them. Robert probably wouldn't let the thing drop. The military industrial types have got their new guys on board of like, oh, we're going to set up this heroin trade and all that shit. The Kennedys are a liability, and it was basically the Kennedys would not go the fuck away, and they just popped off Robert Kennedy, who wasn't a president. He didn't have that kind of security around him, and it was easy enough to do. That's my take on
it. It does sound quite plausible, actually, to be fair.
That's more a motive one, though. Like, I don't know
if there was such a cabal like that within the U.S. government, okay, it wouldn't be coming from the military. All right,
Well,
that's something that people don't realize.
Well, tell me why.
Loosely, but yeah.
Okay, well, let's take a look at several different little aspects about this. All right, who in the government, especially, would be mad at JFK? Would be very, very irritated on a personal level with JFK. All right, JFK was a war hero. All right, people still remember that. People in the military have always appreciated officers that have their back and are willing to go the extra mile to save their lives, which Kennedy had demonstrated. Now he had played that card to an extent, right? But he was very much a person who was admired by the military in general. The other aspect of that is during the campaign against Eisenhower, his big point is that he was claiming that there was a missile gap, and that since there was a missile gap, we wanted to increase funding to the military. JFK is also the one who wanted an increase in the special forces operation and actually wanted to utilize them and began the initial increase of them into Vietnam and into some of these other areas. So the military itself is not looking at JFK as a negative. All right. However, at the very beginning of his administration, there's something called the Bay of Pigs. The Bay of Pigs was a CIA-ran operation. All right. It began from a logistics perspective and from a planning perspective under the Eisenhower administration. But it was given the go-ahead by Kennedy, who then pulled the assets back, letting them die on the beach. Okay. You can see why a number of people that were part of that operation would have it in for him, would be very upset. All right, especially from the CIA, all right, would be very upset with what JFK had done. All right.
Yeah, MC. If I was to change my point to maybe the intelligence community, then, because I'm thinking more, I'm not thinking like your average officer. I'm thinking like high up, Joint Chiefs level, and they consider he's going to get people killed.
You're going to be looking at mid-level people within the CIA specifically.
So you think it's possible that they would like sacrifice one or both? Because I'm seeing from their point of view, JFK with his amphetamine addiction alleged and all that sort of stuff, potentially giving secrets away to the commies. It's not inconceivable to me they'd go, no, we need rid of this guy and all his ilk.
Well, if they were trying to get rid of the commies, they would have been doing things more focused on the State Department, because that was where a lot of the communists were infesting. All right, okay. That really wasn't taking place at that time frame. So I don't think it was from that perspective. I think it would have been mid-level people within specifically the CIA. All right. If you were looking at it, if I was going to continue that conspiracy theory out, right, it would be mid-level people within the CIA, because they have the contacts, right, and they're well placed to run a secondary operation without anybody else even knowing about it, and yet at the same time can use those assets. All right, they're going to be perfectly placed to be able to read certain intel reports. They would be well aware of where Kennedy would be, what his travel plans were, etc. All right, at the same time, all right, they aren't high enough to where people know who they are, have been able to be vetted per se, specifically by different individuals. Especially when you're at that higher level, when you get into the higher levels, all right, the people that get picked for these positions are well known by the people that are picking them, right? They've been vetted as to what their predilections are, what their views of certain individuals are. Would this be a good person or would this be a bad person, per se, for my administration, for example? All right. So if, like I said, if it was somebody within the CIA that was going to do this, it wasn't going to be the director of the CIA. It wasn't going to be his assistant. It would be somebody below them in an operational type of an environment.
So that to me informs my opinion a lot better, and it also says to me that everything is very consolidated now. If you look at the NSA, the CIA, all that stuff, everything's very consolidated now, and I get the feeling, just looking back, that was not the case post World War II up until about the 80s, 90s. Like, there was seemingly lots of different factions in the intelligence community competing with each other.
The reason
Sorry,
you're
guys, hang
seeing...
on just a second. MC, you are more than welcome to come back next week, but we have reached 11 o'clock. So,
Okay.
No, but you're more than welcome to come back next week, my friend. You really are. Please come back next week, and we can kick it off straight from here again. Next Wednesday, 9 o'clock. If you want to come back, my friend, you're more than welcome to.
I appreciate that. I'll see what I can do with my schedule.
Thanks, MC, for swinging by, bro. I mean it from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah. No, I really would like you to come back on because I like going into all the details and everything. It's just the fact that we've been on for 2 hours. That's all. Apart from that, my friend, thank you very much for coming on.
You're welcome.
Do we want to do final words for everybody? If
it seems to be time, sir. You've been more than benevolent. You went a half hour longer than I usually do.
Yeah, that's fine. If we go last word, if Means wants to go first. If Jensen Quinn, if you can speak, then you can go second from second. Then Crumple Point, then then MC, then Crumple Point, then Ogre, then me.
All right. So a word to the wise: update your Google Hangout codec, and then you can actually speak. It's amazing. But no, but I'll just touch on that last little thing that we were talking about. Try to bring it all around, but. Yeah, when you're talking about the whole JFK thing, it's very complicated. There are a number of players with a number of different interests at all different levels, multiple agencies, multiple other entities around the world that had reason to do things. So what I'm seeing here is, and again, I have no idea what the fuck happened. I just know what they tell us happened. So what if instead of a whole grand conspiracy, there were a lot of folks, maybe some folks that were doing some illicit things, they had it out for them. What if instead of a grand governmental conspiracy, there was just a lack of action? What if there were certain folks at whatever level it may be, they may have received some information. Perhaps something could have been done on that information. Perhaps it was chosen not to do anything on that information. And you can always Monday morning quarterback any terrible situation. But all I remember is back after 9/11 happened, I guess about a month or so before, while President Bush was down on his ranch in Texas, in one of his daily briefings, it did mention that individuals from the Greater Sahara area were planning some form of attack on the towers or some other skyscrapers, something along those lines. So it was there, but again, what was the plausibility? Did we think that was a potential? We don't know. So sometimes it can be action, sometimes it's a lack of action. It's up to the Almighty to decide.
No worries. Thank you very much for that, Memes. I know Jensen Quinn can't actually speak at the moment, so if you wouldn't mind going next.
Well, I appreciate you entertaining me and having me on. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. That's all I got to say.
No problem. Thank you very much. Mr. Crumplepoint, please.
Thank you, sir. I like stories. I like telling stories, and I like reading and playing stories. And I think that the great thing about all these conspiracies is that because they're covered up, because they're secretive, and because there's so many bits missing, they make the best stories. And they're becoming almost mythological, some of them, if you look at the way we've spoken about Bluebeam and the way we've spoken about, RX-84, the Illuminati, St. John. There is a mythical quality to them, and yet there is a firm grounding in reality to them as well, as we've heard from MC, that they're a legitimate battle tactic, yet they have this feeling of mystique about them. So I just love discussing them, and thank you to everybody for the excellent conversation, and thank you to Common Sense Guy for having me on. It's a pleasure to listen to you all, and I will catch you next time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Obviously, you, sir, Mr. Ogre, sir.
Yeah, I'm just getting my act together. Yeah, and I'm not kidding. I've been holding this guitar. I'll put it down. I'm gonna say a couple of good things about it. One thing, I can't imagine if the jest I pulled earlier would lead to that that unbelievable Stratocaster that I saw. But I would say that this 1978, the real deal, Dean Flying V, made in the good old United States of America, would not only look good on your wall, Moz, but it would do two things simultaneously to that. It would restore my faith in mankind, which you've already done, as I seem to have lost it over a short period of time here in the last couple of days. And also, it would put a really nice looking guitar on your wall. So, look, I've got a final thing to say. It's nothing to do with what we talked about. Sometimes in life, you don't see, you don't understand. Maybe you're busy. Maybe you've been working hard. Maybe you are focused on other things, whatever it may be. Life goes on without you, right? We could die. I could die right now. And a year could go by. That year would still have happened. I would have no input into it, and I would not know that it transpired. So that said,
can you just mute your mic for a second? I'm getting a lot of reverb from yourself, unfortunately, mate.
Oh, my bad. Yep.
Thank you, mate. Thank you so much, mate. I didn't want to say anything. Thank you so much, mate. You know that was killing my train of thought, didn't you? I love you, common sense guy. And I'll get to that because I've only got, listen, because someone said in the chat, oh, my 30 seconds goes to, so I looked at the clock and it's now ticking. It's now ticking. Look, the path you choose to take can take you to a beautiful place. The path you choose to take can take you to an ugly place. Sometimes when you take that path, you don't know where you're going. I think of Whitman and, oh man, I could go on. I don't want to go into the poetry. Folks will be calling me a faggot before I know it. But yes, I'm a poetry nerd. Yes. Yes, I love life. I love love. I love expression and music. Yes. I love jest. Yes. I get carried away. Yes, I'm suspicious. Yes, I'm boisterous. Yes, I am probably unworthy of taking home to meet mother. Those things said, I humbly, right now, on Common Sense Guy's channel, unknown to him, apologize to anyone I've offended. By name, Mad Dodge. If I've done something to hurt you, I'm so sorry, my brother. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I did some things after I felt attacked that I'm ashamed of those things also. And I won't be putting out any more funny memes of anybody, whether I made them or someone else did, that is close to me. And yes, Mad Dodge and 40 ounce, whether I want to admit it right now or not, you're close to me. Tu est cerca de mi corazón, as the Spanish would say. You're close to my heart. And if I don't have the words, please allow me this in closing. If we shadows have offended, think of this and all is mended, that you have but slumbered here whilst these visions did appear. In this weak and idle theme, no more yielding but a dream. Gentles, do not reprehend. If you pardon, we will mend. And as I am an honest ogre, if I have an unlearned luck, now to scrape the serpent's tongue, we will make amends ere long, else the ogre a liar call. So good night unto you all. Give me your hands if we be friends, and your beloved ogre shall make amends.
Thank you very much for that, Ogre. Beautiful stuff, mate. Right. To be fair, I haven't really got too much to say. I think most things have already been said today. The idea of the stories in themselves are what makes a conspiracy theory amazing to talk about, amazing to walk through. I think anybody that wants to have anything to do with using mind experiments or thought experiments to a point should go through them. And that's not necessarily to say that you need to believe in them or need to think about them as a constant basis, but just as a thought experiment, put yourself through them, have a read through them, enjoy them, use them as what some of them are meant to be, conspiracy theories, and just enjoy the actual story themselves. The actual idea of just being able to throw yourself into something that may or may not be true, that's what we do in everyday books. Just because somebody put the label on it as a conspiracy doesn't make it bad, doesn't make it good. It makes it exactly the same as what it is. It's a theory, it's a story. Relax. Just read it and see what happens. I would like to thank Mr. Roger for coming on. I would like to thank Mr. Memes for coming on, Moz for coming on, Jensen Quinn for coming on. Unfortunately, he had to bow out due to his internet problems. Obviously, thank you very much to MC for coming on as well. Please come on again next week as well, please, sir. I would love to actually have you both to come on as well. And again, obviously, thank you again for Mr. Crumplepoint as well. Thank you very much for everybody coming on. Thank you very much, chat, for coming in and watching us as well today. It's been another amazing Quinnspiracy. Unfortunately, Quinn couldn't actually speak on his conspiracies today, but I'm sure he will do next week, and I'm sure we'll get things sorted. So with that being said, thank you very much. I hope to see you all again real soon. So bye-bye for now.